Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today for this session. I just wanted to introduce our speaker, Erica Riba. Erica Riba holds a Doctor of Education in Community-Based Leadership, is a clinical social worker by training, and is currently Senior Director of Alumni Programs and Engagement at the JED Foundation. At JED, she has previously served as Director of Strategic Higher Education Initiatives, Director of School Engagement, Director of Higher Education and Student Engagement, Senior Campus Advisor, and Campus Advisor. She is a member of JED's School Programs and Consulting Division, which provides support and guidance to colleges and universities, high schools, districts, and boarding schools, working to enhance mental health and lower the risk of substance abuse and suicide. Erica is licensed to practice clinical social work in the state of Michigan, Illinois, and New York. The collaborative has partnered with JED to assist Kentucky institutions with navigating institutional and statewide student mental health strategic planning through initiatives such as communities of practice and the mental health convening. Thank you, and let's welcome Erica, Dr. Riba.
Thank you, Olivia. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I'm a little anxious about the snow, but we're going to put that anxiety over there for now. Let it stick. Thrilled to be here, and today we're talking about creating a community of care, providing effective mental health support for all members. As Olivia said, I'm Erica Riba. I'm a Senior Director of Alumni Programs and Engagement at the JED Foundation. The purpose of this presentation workshop is to empower all of us with the tools to establish and nurture a supportive community of care that promotes and protects student mental health. So here's our agenda for today. First of all, I'm glad that all of you are seated by someone. All of you have some teammates, and that's the hope for today. We're going to really talk about, with each other, how to form inclusion and community. So we're going to understand a community of care, build a community of care, ensure the lasting impact, and then we'll wrap it up. So some shared agreements as we do this work together right now. We welcome openness in learning. Let's assume positive intent, but also acknowledge that intent sometimes differs from impact. Check in with yourself. This topic may be heavy. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Mental health affects all of us. What's learned here leaves here. So what's the JED Foundation? Has anyone heard of it? Raise your hand if you have. Oh, good, okay. So JED is a nonprofit that protects emotional health and prevents suicide for our nation's teens and young adults. So I'll tell you a little bit about the history of JED. JED, sometimes people think it stands for something. It was actually the name of the founders, Donna and Phil Satow. Their son tragically died by suicide in 1998 when he was a college student at University of Arizona. And when you think of that time period, mental health, college mental health, it's not like where it is today, right? In terms of access and care and everyone here in terms of the resources and support for students. So in their grief, the Satow family, they made a meeting with the president of the university at the time, basically saying, how could this have happened? And the president responded, we have 30,000 students. What would you have me do? So that was the question. They came away wanting to find the answer. So they brought together a team of experts. They looked at what the Air Force model was doing at the time in terms of preventing suicide, and they recognized with collective unity, no matter the rank, with policy innovation and systems change, they could make a difference. So we adapted the comprehensive approach that they were using to colleges and universities, and now we're working with both colleges, universities, districts, high schools, and beyond. So at JED, we envision a future where every high school district and college has a comprehensive system that supports student mental health. We believe that teens and young adults should be equipped with the skills and knowledge to help themselves and each other. We want communities to support awareness, understanding, and action for young adult mental health. And we want mental health to be recognized. We want stigma lowered and this to not be associated with shame. So you have a piece of paper in front of you, right? Everyone have one? Make sure you have one. If you don't, let us know. And here we'll take notes today. Basically, whatever comes to you, whatever you're taking from this session, you'll use this. And you'll see at the bottom of the page where it says session objectives, that page, at the bottom of the page, we're going to talk about the national mental health trends. Right below, with a pen, if you have a pencil, what you notice about the data I'm going to show. 49% of higher education students screen positive for symptoms of anxiety or depression. And this comes from the Healthy Mind study at the University of Michigan that looks at students' attitudes and behavior changes as it relates to mental health. 80% of students indicated that mental or emotional difficulties negatively impacted their academic performance for 1 to 6 or more days in the past 4 weeks. 14% of students had serious thoughts of suicide in the past year, compared with 10% of students in 2014. And 51% of students reported feeling lonely. So let's just try this out. Does anyone want to volunteer and say what they notice about this data? Show of hands. Don't all jump at once. Oh, okay, in the back. Let's do it. Thank you to Stephanie for being our runner.
Higher education is abusive to students sometimes, to their mental health. We're talking about their mental health here. So even students who probably come in with no mental health issues or, mental illness, we'll say mental illness, because mental health is well-being on a whole scale. But students who even come in without mental illness probably will have a mental illness issue, whether it be anxiety, depression, by the time they're done with us. It's sad.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. We'll take one more. Yeah. In the middle. Thank you.
I just had a question about your statistics for the 49% of students who were screened. How many students were screened?
Good question. I don't actually, because this is taken from the American Council on Higher Education and the Healthy Mind study, so we can get you those numbers, but it's a good question. Lots of students.
Yeah.
Yep, we'll go one more in the back.
I was just wondering, did you have a comment or question? No, I was just curious about that.
Hello. I was just going to point out that, of course, the traditional age of college-going students is when a lot of mental illnesses are detected. So a lot of times when you're in your 20s, that's when people are realizing they have certain mental illnesses. And so a lot of these things might come about.
Yeah, great point. Thank you. So we have room to improve, and that's really how we started today. There's a lot of data there's a lot of solutions we can provide, and we have to do it together. So how do we understand a community of care? Well, in talking about mental health, this is really important. For us at JED, mental health is like a scale that shows how we're doing emotionally and mentally. So imagine it to be aligned with 4 different sections. Thriving, and we do this with students all the time, and I'm gonna do it here. Raise your hand, I'll play too. Thriving, so this is the best part of the scale. It's when you feel really good, you're on top of the world, you have a strong sense of happiness, and life is going well. Even when you face problems, you can handle them because you feel so good inside. Over the last week, how many of you have been thriving? Look around, good. Thanks for sharing. Steady. Right next to that, right? So steady. Here things are okay, but stress, stress. Moving to the left, we come to the stress part. This is when you often feel not so great. You might be moody or feel down. Life can be tough and uncomfortable, but you can still do your usual stuff, like going to school or work, even though it's not easy. How many of you felt stressed over the past week? And I can see people are raising hands for both. With me? All right, steady. Right next to that is steady. So here things are okay. You're not as happy as when you're thriving. You can still live your life without any big issues, but you're not feeling super amazing. How many people have felt steady in the past week? And distress. This is when your mental health is making it hard to live the life you want to live. It can be so tough that it makes it so hard to do everyday things like taking a shower, going to school, going to work. If someone's in that zone for a long period of time, say 2 or more weeks, they might need help from a mental health expert. But it's important to remember that we might really all experience any of these. So how many people have felt distressed in the past week? Thank you. So students love this because we're not putting them in a box. We're not saying this is what you're diagnosed with. We're normalizing that we can go from actually all of these in one day sometimes. But what's the definition according to the World Health Organization? Mental health is a state of well-being in which every individual realizes their own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and they're able to contribute to their community. And anyone here, anyone outside of us can experience these regarding of any underlying condition or mental illness. It doesn't have to be about family history. Really, it can pop up anytime, especially when you're a college student or graduate student. So let's talk about some shared language as we go into community and connection today. So community is a group of people who share a particular characteristic in common. Communities deal with barriers of access, groups that encounter obstacles in accessing essential resources, opportunities, or services due to external factors such as economic or social influences, and connection. I hope we all know what connection, we're doing it here today. But contextual relation or association, a set of persons associated together. That's just really Merriam-Webster dictionary. So basic needs. Basic needs are food, housing, access to mental health and physical health care, sleep, hygiene, financial literacy, school supplies, childcare, transportation, access to internet and technology. But what is basic needs and security? Well, when we don't have all these or they're not at the level that we want them, they can threaten student persistence and completion, adversely affect students' well-being. If we are not physically or mentally well, it's hard to go about the things that we need to do to accomplish and aim for that success. So we know that mental health and physical health could be impacted by many of these factors. It can also be the language people speak. It could be the ability to vote, making sure voice is heard in elections, the environment, the neighborhood, the quality of food, the access to resources. And some of these systemic barriers can be captured by the structures that are listed in the social determinants of health, which many of you study and do each day. When we think about the conditions and the environments where people are born, where they live, where they work, where they play, where they worship. And that can affect a range of health functioning and quality of life outcomes and risks. So we have a role to play here to understand where social determinants of health and keep improving. So what's a supportive community of care? Well, we know that it supports youth mental health. It's nurturing. It fosters a sense of community for each member. It includes perspectives and encouraging participation from communities that may face barriers to access. How do we build it? So this framework was really helped to, has anyone seen this framework before? A little bit, somewhat? Okay. It was created to help communicate the core actions that have to happen in order to create this inclusive community of care we're talking about. Each domain builds upon the other. So when you think of fostering connection at the bottom, that's the heart. We have to start there. Because if people don't feel accepted, no mental health program, initiative, policy will work. Students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I'll say it again. Students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. A reason why this work is not just falling and should fall to the counseling or health center. It's everybody's responsibility to do this. Think of fostering connection as your opportunity to build awareness of the needs of your community. So once you've identified these, then we have to strategically plan and provide actionable steps, which you're all doing anyway in your work. So how do we start? Fostering connection. Connection, it's a feeling of security. We're going deeper here. Support that comes from being valued, welcomed, and recognized as part of a group. It allows people to be their authentic self. And numerous studies indicate social support is essential for maintaining physical and psychological health. So I'm going to pause there just to introduce the next slide, which is your data. So at the JED Foundation, we've served as thought partners in our work with CPE, KCTCS, and the Healthy Mind Study to go through this pilot program that looks at all the resources that you have and how do we improve them? How do we think about policy shifts, program shifts, what resources it takes to get there? So we've had the really good fortune of being able to study many of the schools in this room, the students that attend your schools, and what they think and experience about mental health. So I'm going to show this data slide. There's going to be a million questions, I bet. And we can keep having these conversations because that's where this starts, the data. But I will say, these are the schools that participated. And if you are from that school, when I name it, raise your hand, just so we know you're in the room. Bellarmine University. Yay. Okay. Center College. Where's Center College? Okay. Well, we'll get them next time. Kentucky Community and Technical College System, 16 colleges. Love it. Morehead State University. Woohoo! All right, love the cheer. And University of Louisville. Woohoo! Okay, so you all had your students fill out the study out of the University of Michigan, and we worked through a lot of the data. It's all available. It should be available. Ask for it if you haven't seen it. It's long. And I pulled out 3 special points for this presentation, but we're going to want more. We always want more, right, when we look at data. Okay, so we have your statewide data and then national. But keep in mind, in Kentucky, those 4 schools and the 16 KCTCS, 6,153 students participated in the study. But nationally, we have 32,000. So take it for what it is. I feel isolated from campus life. 55% of KY students, remember, not all students, those who participated, feel isolated from campus life. 52%, 52.7, I feel isolated from campus life nationally. About the same, but a little worse. For being very, very honest and transparent. But this is helpful. It helps us get to the next path. I see myself as part of the campus community. 70% of your students agree with that. Fantastic, worth celebrating. But who are the 30% who disagree? That's the question. We have to better understand where these students are. And then I fit in well at my school. So 83% agree that they fit in well with at school. I'll ask the same question I did before. Anything that you're curious about, want to know more about, have questions about? We'll take 2 folks who want to say and share. Or nervous about, too. That's fine, too. You can share any feeling you're experiencing when you see this data.
I usually don't need a microphone. I'm loud enough as it is, redheads, Anyway, I'm wondering how many students in this data are traditional students versus non-traditional students, and what that age range would be for a non-traditional student.
Excellent question, and this data is so powerful. It allows you to slice and dice whatever population, what they're studying, where they live, if they're on campus, the type of student they are, anything, ethnicity, race, etc. So you can do that. That's a great curiosity. Thank you. Anyone else curious about something, have more questions, or just want to share? Yeah. Thanks, Stephanie.
So I think from someone that's been both community college and like the traditional 4 years, is there like any distinguish, like when you looked at that data, between like the stress levels or the inclusivity levels for community college versus
Right.
the 4 years?
Well, that was the interesting part of this data. We were using the 4-year colleges with the community and technical colleges. So that's why it brings more questions than answers. But we're seeing students from all walks of life, which is nice. Non-traditional students, the students who are, in our age group, 13 to 30. So I think that's the question we should ask ourselves: who's filling it out and who's experiencing these. Great points. The thing that I'm going to ask the state, and with our support, how do we deepen our understanding about these questions? I feel isolated from campus life. Campus life can have so many definitions, right? Ask yourselves that same question. What was your campus life experience? I feel isolated from my dorm. I feel isolated from the energy around sports. You know, what is it that we're really asking? So I implore us to take it beyond the data, beyond the assessment. Asking that question in a focus group, you could be there for 4 hours with students. It's amazing. I see myself as part of the campus community. How is campus community defined in a student's mind, right? I'd beg us to ask that question. And I fit in well. What do they mean by school? Is it the major, the department that they study in? Is it, again, their living and learning community? What does it mean? And have they found their people in their community? So this is something to jump us off from in terms of like, what do we do about this? But it's really good to see that their students do feel part of something, but how do we, know them? So at your tables, I'll ask to think, pair, share. Get excited. And you could just do it as a group. But just to talk for a few minutes, what are some real reasons students might feel disconnected from their peers, professors, or the campus community? And we'll call on a few people at the end, and I'll let you know when time's up. Okay, about 30 more seconds. All right, let's bring it back. Thank you. I always dislike this part. You know, the conversations are flowing. You are all getting to know each other. Hope you had a chance to introduce, and you're having good convos. So I welcome anyone who wants to share what you and your teammates talked about. Anyone want to volunteer? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, hi, I'm Laurel. I'm from Eastern Kentucky University. I'm sitting at a table with some wonderful colleagues from EKU. Well, some of the things we talked about were things that are common and things that also make me very sad. So we represent various disciplines, and so we see students that are isolated. And in that sense, we talked about how even in class, when we're having them do things together, they don't want to. It's a struggle to get them to work together. They don't have coping skills, especially maybe some of our first year students. If they don't know how to handle something in class, they don't know how to cope. Or maybe they've never actually failed at something before, and then they don't know how to go about, okay, well, how do I get better at this? How do I seek resources and opportunities? I'm in health sciences with my colleague Casey, and we have a lot of nursing, public health, OT, pre-this, pre-that. Very high stress, lots of anxiety. I have to make an A in this class or I don't get into this program. In a lot of class, when I'm like, okay, please work with a neighbor and let's discuss this, they just want to be on their phone. And so a lot of isolation, a lot of anxiety, and it makes me really sad for them and me.
Thank you for sharing. It's all true. Thanks for your personal experiences. It was very helpful. Thanks for framing that. Another table want to share? Yeah. Yay, thanks. We aren't always thinking about online students when we think of a traditional student on campus or a commuter. So thank you so much for bringing that point. One more person. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you had a lot of head nods with that. You're right. So what happens with policies around hiring practices and recruiting, and do we have the resources to do that, to make sure that we're hiring the people that students see themselves in? Thank you. So here are the students that may be at higher risk of isolation and loneliness, and this is what the data indicates, right? Indicates that these are the communities who report feeling less connected. When we show this slide, someone always says, you're missing this group. We know. We're missing a lot of people. And that's important. That's important for the dialogue that needs to be happening on campuses. So you see this list. you were probably talking about it. You were talking about these student populations that feel a sense of isolation and loneliness and truthfully distress. So how are we seeing those students? Where are they on campus? How are we identifying them, and what programs are for them and with them, with their feedback? Okay, back to you. Think about a time when you felt included in a community. What specifically made you feel included? Let's reflect on how we can create the same feelings for our students. This requires vulnerability. This requires the space that we, I think, got into higher education for, to do this work together. So I hope you all give the same respect you would give yourselves and your students, and hopefully you get to know each other through this activity. So I'll call you back in a few minutes. Thank you. Oh, sure. Okay. I was gonna say. Sure. Thanks. All right, we'll do 30 more seconds. Okay. Let's come on back. Again, I hate to cut you off. Thanks so much for participating in that. Anyone want to share? Either what a time where you have felt included or something that you heard from your teammate. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, and thank you for your service. Others? Really? When we do this with students, I can't get them to stop talking. Come on, one more. Let's try. I'm a therapist by training. I could be silent all day, honestly. Like, it's fine. Oh, we had a hand raise. Yeah. Hi. Sorry, we're gonna grab the microphone just so we can hear you.
Think would help our students feel valued, because probably it's what we have experienced, is when we actually feel heard, when people actually listen to us. So when we have an encounter with somebody, we walk away and we feel like, gosh, that person really did hear what I said and understands how I feel. So kind of just making sure that our students are, because we get so caught up in our own stress, and it could be, we have huge caseloads and a lot of students to work with, or we have a line out the door, and we get caught up on making sure we're in compliance and doing things properly, that we forget to listen and make sure our students are being heard. And because so sorry I ramble. So anything to add? Okay.
Listening more than we talk. It's a life skill. Thank you. And we don't have always the time or the ability to slow down to do that. You had a lot of head nods agreeing with you, so thank you. Thanks for participating in that. If you do this with students, it can go a long way. So there's a freebie for you, as long as we put in the intent and the time and the commitment to doing it. So creating a sense of community is important. It promotes psychological safety, balanced representation, healing and emotionally supportive climate, and academic outcomes, which is the goal of today, right? And the next day, student success. So here are tips from fostering connection. You all do so much work on your campuses. You're doing this daily. You already have a lot of this in place, but just some ideas. Creating and or implementing anti-bullying programs and stigma-free spaces. You know, again, how do we talk openly about mental health and suicide prevention? You know, what's being said and what's not being said. Allowing students to provide guidance and feedback. I mean, we hear this all the time. You know, they want more. We're doing enough. We're doing more. We're not doing enough. But how do they give clear, direct, and timely feedback? Encourage and support student-led initiatives. Again, that's already happening. We have student clubs and groups and fraternities and whatever, what name you, and you know that's happening. But again, how do we embed them in our work? Deepen self-awareness by examining personal experience and perspectives. We're doing that here, where we're really like leaning into what each other are saying about personally what we experience as it relates to community. And recognize signals in the physical environment. So what can we do to make our spaces better, as we're always improving? But even just sunlight, you know, how do we see that in our spaces? How do we make sure people are feeling included and they can go to someone on a campus when they're struggling? Next part of the pillar is building support. Okay, we'll do think, pair, share again. I feel supported and comforted when I show support and comfort by the aspect of my experiences and perspectives that influences how I feel and show support the most is. It can be one word, it could be 3 sentences, it can be a whole story. So I'll give you a few minutes just to chat with your teammates. Thank you. All right, about 30 more seconds. All right, let's bring it back. Okay, I want to hear from one person for the first one. Who's brave? I feel supported and comforted when. Who wants to shout it out? When people show up on my behalf. Thank you. I show support and comfort by. Validating their feelings. Thank you. The aspect of my experiences and perspectives that influences how I feel and shows support the most is. That one can be hard. Anyone? Healing from trauma. Thank you. Thank you so much. Excellent. So here's the thing. You don't actually have to be a mental health expert to provide support to students. We all have a role to play. If you think back to Jed's story, when the president said, "What would you have me do?" There's a lot of answers that we would have today, right? There would be counseling, there would be talk to your family, potentially there's medication, potentially there's a group on campus, maybe it's your academic course load, maybe it's changing where you live. There are a lot of things that we could provide, and you're already providing in your daily role to help students persist and make it to graduation. But ultimately, what this is about is to show that we care. We care about each other and we care about our students. And that's really what I wanted to drill down today, that we're doing this by these activities, that we're just listening. We're showing up for each other. We're being vulnerable. And that's often in what students certainly are needing right now. So how do we do this? We provide accessible resources and information. We encourage peer support. There's peer education, there's peer counseling, there's peer listening. There's a lot happening in higher education, but we encourage that because we know students will go to their friends before a trusted adult sometimes. And then we refer to the mental health professionals because we shouldn't do this work alone, right? It's a community of care. We have a campus full of excellent people that are showing up. So how do we do this? We create affirming and supportive spaces. We promote collaboration and decision-making. We normalize seeking help and checking in regularly, and we empower students to self-advocate, and we use relatable language when talking about mental health. Think of that spectrum, the continuum. If we show that and we actually have conversations about it, you'll see that we're more likely to connect on many levels. So you'll see on your piece of paper, there's students in the front of this web. They're in the center, right? The outer circles represent who shows up for them in this community of care. So who else might be looking out for their mental well-being and ensuring that they feel a sense of community and connection? As a member of higher education, you're part of the circle, all of you, and you can play a positive role. So take a few seconds to list out the community of care for your students on your own. Okay, for the sake of time, keep writing. You can take this home with you. We're just going to keep going. And what we usually hear is there's not enough boxes. Anyone experiencing that right now? Like, we could do like massive, right? Anyone in the room write yourself in the box? What? Anyone write family? Their faculty member, their teacher, favorite teacher? Anyone write, may it be specific? Okay. Anyone write at least one of these on here, on your paper? Nice. Anyone want to call out something that you wrote that's not here that you believe this room should hear? Campus chaplain. Excellent. Others? Sponsors? Food service workers. Thank you. Yeah. Residential life. Custodians. Excellent. Yeah. So again, oh yeah. Uh-huh. Great, the basic needs services, great. So again, this is an activity you can bring into your communities just to wonder what students would say, what your staff would say, and again, builds a sense of community. It helps a great deal when you just pause and do something like this. So I think you'll be interested to hear, again, from the Healthy Mind study that studies 30,000 students, and this was, oh no, sorry, that was from the other one, but this is, sorry, the end for this question specifically was 104,729 from 196 college universities. And they asked about student, not informal help seeking resources, so non-clinical, right? So I think it's important to point out that of those college universities who talked about, who filled this out, 39% of students are going to family, 39% are going to close friends, 31% are going to significant others, and 33% are going to none of the above. So the question is, what's the none of the above? Where are students going? Are they going to social media? Are they going just to their journal? Are they going to someone else that may not be listed in the survey? But the thing about this is to look at all of these people that are in a student's life. Are they equipped to respond to students when the students are coming to them? And if they are not, what is our role here? Are they equipped to respond, hold a space for conversation, and refer when necessary? So again, this data is so powerful, especially when it's by your school or by your students. How do you deepen your knowledge of what's here and have these conversations? And how to create lasting impact. So, back to Jed. We prioritize that mental health is a community value, and what do we do about it? And a lot of you already have this in place. We establish a dedicated task force to improve mental health access and support. We encourage all students to utilize health services by promoting awareness and accessibility. We integrate mental health into curricula, programming, and events. Revising policies to be supportive and adaptable, allowing the flexibility in parents' guidelines. Build teams that reflect the experiences and perspectives of the student body and are equipped to effectively support students. So some of these questions might stand out for you. You can jot them down on your piece of paper, but these are what you can bring back. Who feels connected here and who doesn't? How are life skills, we've talked about that a lot, how are they integrated for students in this community? How are students engaged? What does it mean to be engaged, and how do they feel included? Who leads and attends these programs? Is it the same people every year, or are you switching it up a little bit? And how is the marketing? Marketing's all of it, right? How do you get them involved from the jump? How is mental health discussed in the community? And how are we describing and defining community? Are students aware of the people and resources that they can turn for help? Who are those people? Where can they be found? Think of our mission. No wrong door. There is no wrong door for help on campus. What does connectedness mean to the organization and its students? So how do we continue? How do we sustain? Don't leave communities to chance. We must adapt, especially right now, to the changing needs through ongoing planning and preparation. We have to keep the cycle going. Our students are ever changing, we're ever changing, even when the faculty and staff is not. Treating each individual interval of time as brand new is critical and crucial. Be deliberate with practices. Creating a community of care must be an intentional forethought rather than a response. We can do it, right? Right, okay. So let's wrap this up. Our hope is that you start doing this, and you're already doing it, but how do you expand on it? How do you improve it? How do you do it together? How do you take the names of the people you talked to today, network with them, keep it going, keep it sustaining? Think about what's the one thing you plan to do after this training. Write it down. Hold yourself accountable. Check back next year. Did we do what we said we were going to do? Our national resources, has anyone ever heard of findhelp.org? Raise your hand if you have. Okay, it's so good. I tried it just to practice. If you just, and you can do it on your phone right now, if you put in your zip code, it tells you everything that's around you. And it's excellent, and it's something that we should really publicize, and it's at the forefront. JED's Mental Health Resource Center, it was created by students. There are a lot of things that students are experiencing, but we have a lot of solutions and programs to help students in those areas. You can link this free for your websites and on your socials if you want. jedfoundation.org. We do workshops for students, for any group, faculty, staff on various topics, such as this one, but we also have a training called You Can Help. It's how do students and staff actually help and intervene when students are struggling. So we offer those if that's of interest. Seeking therapy is also part of the solution. So we offer a lot of, we connect with partners who are doing this work already and helping other communities. Lots of resources for higher education. A lot of them are free, and we'll be happy to help you with whatever you need. Connect with us on social. And we have a survey if you want to give feedback on ways this has helped you, ways we can improve, and tell us what you're taking away from this as well. So I so thank you for participating, giving your colleagues the space, the time, the energy. You're all doing amazing work. I've had the chance to work with many of you through our community of practice work. I'll leave my business card over here if you want it, and I thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.